Greetings, my friends. I want to thank you all for subscribing. I want to thank all of my channel members for supporting me in this endeavor to save pop culture. And if you are not subscribed, please consider supporting this channel. We need you. Thank you. My friends, some stories have the capacity to fill you with fury. Some stories make you fall on the floor laughing. And though by all rights, this story should fall into the first category, for whatever reason, this story is so over-the-top woke, it becomes a self-parody, and it just cracked me up to no end. And so, being a benevolent supervillain, I've decided to share a story with you that made me actually laugh my armored ass off. Boom, clank, there it went. Yes, it is a story about extremists corrupting an American institution, in this case a classic board game about capitalism, and yet, somehow, I can't help but find it so absurd that it's hilarious to me. As I've said before, these woke extremists are kind of like termites. They burrow their way inside a structure, an institution, a franchise, a nation, and they just eat away at the framework of what they've infested until it's weakened and undermined, and they hope it collapses. The woke have only one redeeming characteristic that the termites lack, and that's that they're ludicrous. They're so ridiculous that if you can set aside your anger and horror at the destruction they're wreaking, you can see how absurd they are, and that is our greatest weapon against them: humor. The woke are notoriously incapable of understanding or utilizing humor. When they do their oh-so-earnest diatribes against the man, the patriarchy, America, whatever, if you reply by laughing at them or with a witty joke, they're completely deflated. Kind of like when Captain Kirk talks a computer into blowing itself up by shooting it full of illogic. It's quite a sight to see these snowflakes get even angrier when their righteous anger is countered with a laugh. And it is in this spirit that I present this ludicrous story of a woke wanker trying to use the all-American game of Monopoly to score woke points.
Monopoly? A game that is literally about the glories of capitalism, free enterprise, gumption, and grit? That educates kids about how the free market operates? That Monopoly game?
The same, Harvey Cthulhu. Now, the really funny thing about this is, the reason I can laugh about it is they're not actually able to corrupt the game as such. Parker Brothers isn't issuing an official corrupt woke version of the game, no. It's just some crazy snowflake mofos just imposing a set of unofficial woke rule modifications to score propaganda points. And it's just, well, this story plays out like a Saturday Night Live parody of wokeness, so check it out, folks. It may be SNL-like, but it's all too real. GB News published an article titled, "Woke Councils Tell Parents to Give White Children More Money in Monopoly to Teach Them About Privileges and Racism." and in this article, they write, quote, "A group of councils has shared advice that parents of white children should give them more money and allow them to spend less time in jail while playing board game Monopoly. The guidance on how to raise anti-racist children was created for toy manufacturers Mattel with the help of a BBC education consultant. It has since been pushed by local councils in England, including Southampton City Council. It also suggests parents of children up to 3 years old should play music from different cultures and avoid only singing songs steeped in white culture." The document, titled "Supporting You to Raise Anti-Racist Children," was written in 2020 and still features on Leicestershire County Council's website. Children aged between 9 and 12 should use board game metaphors to explain white supremacy and privilege, with the example of Monopoly with adapted rules, which allows white players to start with more money, avoid going to jail, and get a head start on buying property, unquote.
Well, now, this is not surprising, given that this crap is originating from the UK, land of the BBC and Ncuti Gatwa's gay Doctor Who and countless other extremist DEI ESG garbage. The UK at this point has gone more or less full Stalin, from what I hear.
But just picture the scene, Harvey Cthulhu. These rules are attempting to fight discrimination against minorities by discriminating against minorities. Some poor kid of color who just wants to play a game with his white friends, which really should be the whole goal of a civilized society, right? I mean, wasn't the whole point of the civil rights movement of the 60s and all progressive thought moving forward to eliminate discrimination and segregation? Now let's look at how this would be implemented. The fundamental thesis of these idiotic rules is when white people and people of color are playing a game together, make sure the white people start out with more money and make the people of color spend more time in jail when they land on the space. So, how does this help anything? Already, right from the start, this scenario begins with white people and people of color integrated and enjoying their leisure time together playing a game. This is not imposed on them. This is not a teachable moment. This is the success of decades of civil rights in real life, functioning as it should. Goal achieved. And yet, these weasels are too stupid to realize they're undermining actual genuine civil rights advances by introducing real discrimination into the mix. Because even though it's just a game, you are literally discriminating against the non-white player, creating divisiveness and possible hard feelings and anger in a group of integrated people who are already getting along. Otherwise, they wouldn't be hanging out in their leisure time playing a game together.
These stupid, nasty little trolls. They're just another example of how these so-called social justice warriors have no interest at all in advancing peace, harmony, and integration. It's all a phony show, an excuse to damage Western civilization under cover of so-called progress. It's just ridiculous.
The hypocrisy is staggering and hilarious. Think of the poor kids who get discriminated against in classrooms, at birthday parties, who go home feeling bad about themselves or resenting their white classmates who were formerly friends. It's poisoning the well of race relations, not just as a game, but for real. Fighting discrimination with discrimination, folks. Ain't woke grand. Sure would be nice if this movement was actually concerned with advancing race relations and ending discrimination and making society colorblind and equitable for all. But of course, that's only what they mouth off about. They don't actually really want that to happen. If they did, they would go ahead and make Mikey Spock a sympathetic, wonderful character that we would all be in love with right now. That's what they should have done, just like in The Expanse, but no. They were more interested in scoring points against the patriarchy and the audience and shaming and gaslighting everybody. And they make Mikey Spock an obnoxious, ridiculous, annoying, insufferable character that everyone despises. Hey, that's doing women of color a great favor, isn't it? Well, that's how they roll in the woke world. From the center of the earth, this is Dictor Van Doomcock bidding you all, my friends, stay angry. Ha 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 ha.